Colorado Department of Personnel and Administration would like to let you know about some important laws that may impact your work as a law enforcement officer. In 2007, Colorado established the Address Confidentiality Program, or ACP. The Colorado ACP is a statewide program that provides victims of domestic violence, sexual offenses, and stalking with a legal substitute address for interacting with all state and local government agencies. The purpose of this ACP is to reduce the risk of future harm. All state and local government agencies, including courts and law enforcement agencies, must accept the substitute address as a participant's legal address. Before this program existed, public records from court filings to voter registration records could place a victim at risk with a simple internet search. Today, over 5,000 Coloradans have been protected through ACP's services. Over the next few minutes, we would like to share a few things with you. How the ACP program operates in Colorado, how the statutes may impact your work as a law enforcement officer, and tips for interacting with ACP participants. The ACP has two basic functions. First, it provides a designated substitute address for victims to use when interacting with all state and local government agencies, including courts and law enforcement agencies. Second, program participants may use their designated ACP address to receive first-class mail, legal documents, and certified mail. The victim's mail is forwarded by the program to their confidential location at no cost to the victim. So let's begin with how a victim becomes part of the ACP program. To enroll in the ACP, potential participants must meet in person with a registered applicant assistant. These assistants have completed specialized training from the ACP. They can determine the eligibility of the potential participant, explain the program services, and assist the applicant with completing the necessary enrollment paperwork. Application assistants may be confidential victims advocates, employees of state or local government agencies, other agencies that provide counseling, referral, or specialized services to crime victims. Victims can find their nearest registered applicant assistant by visiting the ACP website or calling 303-866-2208. According to Colorado laws, a potential program participant must 1. Be a victim of sexual assault, domestic violence, or stalking who fears for his or her safety. 2. Provide evidence of victimization, such as a police report, a protection order, or documentation from a professional who has provided direct services to the victim. 3. Have relocated within the past 90 days or be planning to relocate. The applicant and the application assistant both sign the enrollment paperwork and send it to the ACP. As long as the application is complete and contains the required evidence, the ACP certifies the applicant as a participant for 4 years. The participant is issued a white plastic authorization card that identifies the individual as an ACP participant. The card includes the participant's signature, state seal, the designated substitute address, and personal authorization number. The information on this card is not confidential. Participants are encouraged to carry it with them at all times, and they are required to present it to agencies if they need to verify participation in the ACP. The designated address is 1001 East 62nd Avenue, Denver, Colorado, 80216. Each household is assigned different apartment numbers, but otherwise, the address is the same no matter where the participant resides in Colorado. By using this address, the participant can greatly limit the number of people, agencies, or businesses that have access to their real address. Participants use their designated address as their legal address for home, work, and school. Participant mail begins to arrive at the substitute address, which also is the location of the ACP. ACP sorts the mail by household, places the mail in a larger envelope, and resends the mail to the participant's actual address. All first-class mail, certified mail, and legal mail is received at the designated address and is forwarded to the participant's confidential location. In addition, the ACP is designated as each participant's legal agent for receipt of service of processed and certified mail. This means that ACP staff can sign for certified mail and receive personal service on behalf of program participants.
Now let's talk about how participants use the substitute address for government records. Program participants may use the designated address when creating new records with state and local agencies and the court system. They may also change existing records created up to 90 days prior to enrollment. According to Colorado laws, state and local agencies shall accept the designated address as a program participant's address whenever they create a new public record. This includes agencies such as the Department of Revenue, Department of Human Services, public schools, and city and county government offices, all state and local law enforcement agencies, and courts. When presented with the ACP authorization card, state and local agencies and the courts must use the substitute address in place of home, work, or school address on all new public records and on records created up to 90 days prior to enrollment. This includes any type of record created by a law enforcement agency, such as an incident report, citation, witness statement, arrest report, correspondence, or any other document or database entry created from interacting with an ACP participant. Once an officer is aware that someone is an ACP participant, the officer cannot require the participant to disclose the confidential address. It is important to note that the statute applies only to new records and records created within 90 days prior to enrollment. Any records created more than 90 days prior to enrollment are not subject to the ACP laws. Program participants are responsible for informing officers about their ACP participant status and for requesting the use of their substitute address. Officers may ask to see the participant's authorization card to verify participation and may photocopy the card for documentation. If you have any questions, you can call the ACP at 303-866-2208. Option 4 will connect you with the ACP staff person immediately. The phone number is also listed on the back of the authorization card. A few exceptions do exist if an officer needs to obtain the confidential address of an ACP participant. State laws allow the ACP to make a confidential address available under very specific circumstances. Disclosure by court order can occur if the court finds that the disclosure is required in the interests of justice and that the potential harm to the program participant is substantially outweighed by the public interest in the disclosure. Expedited disclosure is provided to a criminal justice official or agency pursuant to a criminal justice trial, hearing, proceeding, or investigation involving a program participant. The process for this request is found on the ACP website. Disclosure can also be made to a state or local government agency if the agency has a bona fide statutory or administrative need for the actual address. A request must be submitted in writing on agency letterhead, and the participant must be provided with notice and the opportunity to be heard regarding the request. All requests must include specific details that will be verified by the ACP office prior to release. If a request is approved, the ACP may limit how the information is used, stored, and handled by the requesting agency. Let's go over a few examples of how an officer might interact with ACP participants and how their participant status affects the information gathered and recorded by the officer. Law enforcement officers may encounter ACP participants in a wide variety of roles and settings. You may come into contact with a participant as a victim, witness, suspect when issuing a traffic citation, creating an incident report, responding to an emergency report, or even an arrest warrant. Regardless of the situation, if the officer has verified ACP participation, the participant's actual address must be protected. For example, if an officer makes a routine traffic stop, the officer may ask the driver for their actual address. If the driver is an ACP participant, it is likely the participant will indicate that their address is 1001 East 62nd Avenue in Denver, Colorado. Because the Department of Revenue is also subject to the ACP laws, it is likely that the participant will also have this address on their driver's license and vehicle registration. If the driver informs the officer that they are an ACP participant, the officer may request to see their authorization card to verify participation. Once the officer verifies the person's participation, they cannot require the participant to disclose their confidential address. Another example might be a participant who needs to report a crime that occurred at their home. If the participant explains to the officer that they are an ACP participant, their address should remain confidential. Even though the officer may know the address because of the situation, the address should not be recorded in the report. Officers may copy the authorization card to include in the report. If the participant's address is the location of a crime, it may be necessary for an officer to record the actual address of the crime in a confidential location and ensure that this information is not provided in releasable reports. In the unusual circumstance when an ACP participant might be interviewed as a suspect or even arrested, it might be common for officers to document the address of the person in question. If the person in custody is confirmed to be an ACP participant and they request address confidentiality, the only address on the record should be the ACP substitute address.
The ACP understands that officers may respond to accidents or medical emergencies when participants are unresponsive. In these situations, we recommend that once the officer does discover that the victim is an ACP participant, that every effort is made to protect any information that may have been documented. Last but not least, if you encounter victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking who could benefit from program services, please refer them to the program phone number or website. If you would like more information about ACP for your community, brochures and posters are available upon request. The ACP is an important program that increases safety for Colorado's most vulnerable citizens. By working together, we can protect the confidential information of participants to reduce the risk of future harm and save lives. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about ACP.